Joining us right now, the CEO of Apple Metro, Applebee's franchisee owner, Zane Tankel. Zane, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria.
So they want better future, better wages. Do you think the Democrats have the best interests of the small business owner like yourself?
I'm not sure they ever did, very honestly. It's camouflaged in having the interests of the people. But if you look at what the end result is, Maria, at the end of the day, stressing businesses, particularly small businesses, more and more and more by piling on, how does that help the consumer? How does that help the person at the end of the day?
Well, just to look sort of practically speaking, they're talking about better wages. They want the minimum wage to go up.
Sure.
And right off the bat, that's in contrast to what you're trying to do, because if you raise your minimum wage, you're going to have to fire other people.
Well, fire is a hard word to say. You need a certain number of people to work through and service a guest on the one hand. On the other hand, I always say higher wages are technology's best friend, because at a certain level it becomes prohibitive higher wages. The more something costs, the less you buy it. So as they drive wages up and up, camouflaged as helping people, and it's camouflaged because, think about this, the only person that gets helped, if he gets helped, is the working person. Those that are unemployed, minimum wage could be $100 an hour. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, good point.
And if it is $100 an hour, guess what? That labor force will be slashed and dashed and brought all the way down where it becomes not prohibitive, but economical.
Right.
And it's camouflaged as helping.
It's a good way to put it.
Zane, one of the things we've been talking about a lot this morning is the mandate portion of Obamacare.
Yes.
And if that disappeared, do you think that would change the behavior of employees like yours, who now have some choices in terms of what to do with their money?
Yeah, it most definitely will. We watched it happen. As soon as you start fining people and you take money out of circulation to put back into the government to recirculate as they deem it should be recirculated, you're hurting the consumer, you're hurting the provider, you're hurting the company itself. So sure, if I can tell you the data, the first year most everybody took the fine, which was only $60. The second year it went, I think, to $250, and we had 3,000 employees, mind you. We had 100 sign up. The third year it went to 695, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And then we had 200 out of 3,000 sign up. So we have 200 people that are paying $700 for nothing, and then you have all these other folks that have opted just not to go in. They just it's picking the consumer's pocket, and I don't look at it as my staff or my population as much as $700 is probably 2 visits a month to an Applebee's. All the other people that are paying these fines have stressed our space in terms of the restaurant industry, because that money is out of circulation.
That's discretionary money that they just don't have.
Exactly. And it's not fair to fine people for something they don't want to do. And I don't know the solution, I might add. And now this is baked into the economy. It's baked into people's expectations. So everyone who wanted to get rid of it said, whoa, wait a minute, that comes out of my pocket on the one hand. So on the other hand, nobody's really looking at the trajectory that I'm aware of, the actuaries, to say if we continue along this Obamacare, I hate Obamacare, Affordable Health Care Act, I don't want to give them credit for it. If we continue along this track, where is it going to wind up? There's now 30 counties with zero.
No choice.
Right.
So you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Let me ask you about tax reform, because as a small business owner, you must be expecting the needle will move if, in fact, taxes come down. So small business owners are now launching a nationwide campaign with former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, I know, to pressure Congress to pivot to tax reform, which we've been talking about all year. The group is pointing to a survey showing that small business owners want tax relief more urgently than they want a repeal of Obamacare. Does that in step with what you want?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you some data on that, Maria. I've always said that, by the way. And the data on that is, we know when the tax returns, when the tax refunds come through, our business, you can graph it, goes just like this.
Wow.
It's new money in their pocket, so we gear up like we do for Christmas or for Mother's Day.
Like after April 15th, when people are getting their checks,
exactly.
You feel like they're going to get their...
And if we come late, we're sort of overstaffed for a week or two waiting for those checks to come late. But when they arrive I could
That's
tell you the
interesting.
day they're in their mailboxes. And it lasts like that for about 2 weeks. So think about this. If we had tax reform and we had more money in their pockets, we'd be staffed up for the whole year. But
Creating jobs.
And creating jobs. But having said that, I'm not sure how one comes to reform taxes without having a known entity with what's health care costing.
Right.
Because you don't have that line item on the budget.
Which is why they wanted to do it first.
Yeah,
Which you almost have to do it first.
they're both very interconnected. But for you as a small business owner, is tax cut or tax reform more important, or is tax cut just good enough?
I think they're baked in together. How do you cut the taxes when you don't know what the line item for health care is? How can you do that without having that budget number? So, or an idea of the budget number. And we were chatting in the green room for a minute, and nobody that I've seen has called together. There's 4 basic insurers in the country today, right? United Healthcare, Aetna, and a couple. And nobody's called, convened a meeting of these 4 guys and say, how do you envision this going down? How do you guys? You got a bunch of politicos that are worrying about their next election, deciding what our future is with health care.
In fact, the majority of those health insurers have pulled out of the the Obamacare market.
Exactly, and I'd sit with those guys. I'd sit with those guys and say, why did you pull out, and what can we get you to do to pull back in? And how do you see making this thing? Look, somebody's going to get hurt at the end of the day, because you can't just give away candy without somebody getting sick, and give them as much candy as they want whenever they use a pun. Getting sick, haha, healthcare, haha, boom, put them together. Nobody laughed, so I thought I'd laugh, haha.